Good morning, guys. Welcome to the LFC Journal Live. I'm W. James. This is your live podcast this morning on Friday, the 16th of December, guys, as we build up towards the game this weekend against Burnley. Obviously, at Anfield, Liverpool expected to obviously win and hopefully win convincingly. We're going to talk what Arne Slot has said in his press conference today. I've got to say, I've listened to the press conference twice now and genuinely despair. Honestly, despair with Arne Slot and this club and the future under this manager. Really do despair with him. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk also about breaking news in the last sort of few minutes around Marc Guéhi as well, with the development on the Marc Guéhi transfer story. We've got the latest on that as well. Manchester City pushing ahead to try and secure Guéhi in January. We're going to talk about that as well. That's come from a very reliable source. We're also going to talk about the squad as well. Does the squad have the depth without any business in January to go the season and actually, basically get through this season and say, yeah, that's enough to get through till the end of the season and compete, obviously, in the Champions League and compete in the FA Cup and still obviously get fourth in the Premier League as a very minimum. Although it does seem, I'm going to say, disingenuously poor that we're kind of talking about fourth has been the sole, kind of ambition for our squad. This Liverpool football squad that is worth, transfer market put it at 1.04 billion, should be, I think, doing a whole lot better than it is doing. And I think a lot of that is down to the manager and his failure to develop the squad and to improve the team. Right, let's talk first of all about the Marc Guéhi news that is coming out within the last literally the last 10 to 15 minutes. I was actually doing some NFL content on my NFL channel. I'm a Chicago Bears fan in the NFL. Was doing a bit of NFL content and it kind of flicked up on my phone as regards, what is happening with this man. Let me just bring you that latest news on Marc Guéhi. And this is from Fabrizio Romano. Manchester City advance on Marc Guéhi deal as big approach has been made in the last 12 hours. Manchester City have apparently presented an important proposal to Guéhi in terms of contracts. Eventually, they are ready to proceed also with Crystal Palace. Deal now closer with Manchester City FC. This is what is being reported by Fabrizio Romano. Worrying times, guys, worrying times. So, let's have a little look at this story, shall we? Let's have a little look at this story. But in fact, what I'm going to do? I'm going to just do something quick and bring it up on screen so you can see the tweet that has come out from Fabrizio. And then we'll talk about it in a bit more detail. I've got to say, I've said all along that losing Marc Guéhi, losing out on Guéhi and not getting the Guéhi deal done in the summer was a fundamental mistake by the club. The fact that we didn't obviously get this deal done, I think is huge. I think is absolutely huge. And failure to bring in Guéhi, I think, has cost us. It really has. I think, he could have come in and replaced Konate this season. I think he would have done better than Konate. I really do. Right, let me just quickly change over screens for you. There's Fede. So we'll say goodbye to Fede for a minute. And let's bring up the actual tweet from the man himself. Here it is. So as you can see, it says quite clearly what I've just read out to you. It says basically, that the Manchester City want Guéhi, that they are pushing ahead to try and get this deal done within this transfer window. Now, look, this is, I think, clear that Manchester City want him because they are in a position where they need centre-backs. You look at Manchester City at this moment in time and you look at the fact that they are obviously lacking centre-backs. Guardiola is out injured. You've got Diaz also out injured. It is a concern for them. It is a worry for them. And if you look at the team they played in the EFL Cup, they had EFL Cup on in terms of the next game, in terms of their last league game, which was a draw against Brighton, they had Kusanov and Elaine at centre-half again. There is a real, I think Manchester City feel there is a real lack of depth and talent in their centre-half positions. So I think there is some real kind of determination within the Manchester City ownership and within the Manchester City leadership group to get this deal over the line by the end of the January transfer window. Now, look, we know that Crystal Palace, from what Oliver Glasner said the other day, are willing to sell. So we know that they're prepared to pay the money for him because they want to strengthen. Now, they want to sell. They want to bring him money. They don't want to lose him for nothing in the summer. So the fee that's been talked of is 35 to 40 million, which is similar to what Liverpool were going to spend anyway in the summer on the player. So you'd kind of look at it and you'd kind of say, well, look, Liverpool, if you were prepared to spend 35 million pounds on Mark Gahey in the summer, and that money was there to spend on him, and now you face a situation where you could actually lose out on the player, where he might go to one of your biggest rivals. Why are you not, moving heaven and earth now to try and get this done? Why are you not, trying to push this deal ahead? Why are you not competing with them? Now, obviously, I don't know. There may be moves from Liverpool to compete with them. Hopefully there is. There has to be, surely, moves by the club to push this one, because to lose out on Mark Gahey, to me, would be absolutely irresponsible. It really genuinely would, and I would really worry and be concerned, going forward, if Gahey isn't at the football club. I know that preferably Liverpool want to wait till the summer to get this deal done. They want to wait till they can get him for free in the summer, and obviously, I know that no deal realistically is free. I know that any signing costs money because there's signing on fees. There's obviously wages to pay. There's agent fees to pay. So I know that no deal is in effect free. But Gahey, to me, if this is Manchester City making the push now, Richard Hughes needs to be picking up the phone to Steve Parish this morning and saying, look, whatever they're prepared to offer you, I'll offer you the same. Picking up the phone to Mark Gahey and saying, right, whatever they're offering you wages-wise, we'll offer you the same. And bring him to the club. Because, I've banged on about this more than enough, is that, that we need a centre-back. Liverpool desperately need a centre-back. And, to me, it is massively irresponsible not to go and get one. It really genuinely is. Really, we've got to do it. And I genuinely say that if we do miss out on Mark Gahey, it's going to be huge. It is going to be absolutely huge. And this is worrying news. And like I said, this has just sort of come out within the last hour about Manchester City really wanting to push to bring Gahey to the club. Liverpool must fight back, and they must try and get this deal done. And Arne Slot can sit in his ivory tower and say, oh, well, it doesn't matter. We've got Joe Gomez, who apparently could be injured again. We've got Gravenberch and Endo and Robbo, who can all play there. But look, Arne, you're living in cloud cuckoo land if you honestly believe that is good enough to get this team to a situation where we can compete in the Champions League for the rest of the season, where we can compete in the FA Cup for the rest of the season, and where we can, be guaranteed of securing fourth place in the Premier League, which, to me is a sin anyway, that we're kind of just talking as a football club of fourth place been the kind of ceiling of our ambitions. To me it's wrong. It's wrong. And honestly, if Konate was to go down tomorrow, or Virgil was to go down tomorrow with a long-term injury, which, seems to be blighting the club at the moment, I would worry about what the options are at centre-back. I don't want to be going through the rest of the season with Wataru Endo playing centre-back, or with Gravenberch in there, because I think if you move Gravenberch back into midfield, it badly takes away from the rest of the team. So I do worry, that if we don't get a centre-back, that there is going to be huge issues there for Liverpool. It is a big worry. It is a big worry for me. And it is something that does, need to be addressed. 100% needs to be addressed. Really does. And this is something that I think now, with this now being pushed ahead by Manchester City, does need to be looked at by the club in the next 24 to 48 hours. H to the K says, Slot has lost it. His answers and statements make so little sense and smack of a man with no clue of what he is doing and no knowledge of this club's expectations and traditions. Also, H2K says he has to go in the summer or else the club will move further backwards. I think there is within the fan base a number of fans that feel exactly the same as you. Really, there genuinely is. There is a group within the fan base that very much feel what you feel. There is still a group within the fan base that back Arne Slot. I'd love to know, other than, like I said, he won the league last year. What else is there telling you that this man is the manager to take us forward? I mean, I personally have backed Slot most of the season, but I've now reached a point where I agree with what H2K is saying. I agree with what a lot of fans are saying now, that Slot needs to go. And he needs to go in the summer. I don't think we sack him now. I don't think that's right. I think we let him see it through to the end of the season and bar him win the Champions League. And I think, even just finishing fourth is not enough. I think he has to win the Champions League. If he doesn't win the Champions League, he definitely has to go. There were comments this morning in the press conference that genuinely worried me, that genuinely concerned me. They really did. This one comment that I'm going to talk about now genuinely puts the fear of God into me in terms of him as a manager of our football club. He said this, he says, "We're waiting for a moment where we can kickstart our season even more than in the last 11 games. Arne, you've played 20 games. We're in fucking January. And you're talking about kickstarting the season now? Now? Honestly? Really? We're 14 points behind Arsenal. We're in a battle for fourth place, where we should have been in a battle for the league title. And you're talking about kickstarting the season today? Now? At this point? I mean, honestly, genuinely, you worry. You genuinely worry about this man. If that's what he honestly thinks, that this is the point where we kickstart our season, he genuinely has lost the plot. He genuinely has lost the fucking plot. There's a lot of what he says in his pressers that really do make me think that he doesn't understand what the expectations of Liverpool Football Club are. The expectations of this club are to win and to win trophies, to win well, to compete for the biggest prizes in world football, not to be in a battle for fourth. To be honest with you, listening to him this morning talking, and how he was talking about fourth being the be-all and end-all, to me, really did sound... He was starting to sound a little bit like Arsene Wenger near the end of his reign as Arsenal manager. He really was. He was put to the point where, to me, he actually genuinely sounded like Wenger. Wenger talked, didn't he, near the end, about the fact that fourth place was like a trophy. Was like a trophy. It isn't. It's not. And it honestly reminded me so much of Arsene Wenger, of the way that Wenger used to talk. About Arsenal, the fact that fourth place was a big enough achievement in a season. Now, if Arne Slot is heading down that alley, that fourth is a big enough achievement in a season for Liverpool Football Club, then realistically, you've got to start to ask questions about whether he understands what this club expects, or whether he gets what this club expects. To me, it's a concern with that attitude that he seems to have. This is what he said on securing Champions League qualification this season. He said, "It's a challenge because we play in the Premier League, and the teams you are mentioning," the reporter who asked the question mentioned Chelsea, Newcastle, Manchester United, etc., which, I get, they're all good teams. Very good teams as well. "We haven't put ourselves in the most ideal position, no shit, Arne, especially if you compare it to where we were after 6 games. Well, we were top of the league, 5 points clear of Arsenal. But the reality is we are competing with these teams at this moment in time for fourth position because Villa is having such a great season." So it appears that he's completely writing off finishing first, second or third. He is solely focusing on finishing fourth. That's it. He's kind of forgetting even Aston Villa. Now, for me, for a Liverpool manager to sit there and say that he doesn't even think we can catch Aston Villa is just ridiculous. Still a lot to play for us in the league, because we all know how important it is for any club. But definitely for this club, to qualify for the Champions League, that didn't happen 2, maybe 3 years ago, I think, and it had a big impact financially on the club. We are aware of the importance of qualification for the Champions League, but that is not only for us, that's for a lot of teams. We are also aware of the fact that the league is probably stronger than ever. Get your excuses in early, Arne. That is something where we have to do really well in the league, and of course there's the FA Cup and the Champions League to fight for as well. I mean, look, it's encouraging that he's clearly not writing off the FA Cup. He's clearly not writing off the Champions League. You know, he maybe sees those as an opportunity to save the season. Hopefully he does, and hopefully we don't have a situation where he does basically fuck off the FA Cup in the same way he did with the League Cup. And the Champions League is going to be tough, don't get me wrong. You know, there's a lot of very good teams in that Champions League, and I think, you know, winning the Champions League would be an amazing achievement, because, you know, you've got Arsenal, you've got Man City, you've got PSG, you've got Real Madrid, you've got Barcelona, you've got Inter Milan, you've got Bayern Munich. There's a lot of very big teams and very good teams in that Champions League this season. But, you know, I suppose he is correct in the fact that he says that qualifying for the Champions League is the be-all and end-all. And I'd love to know what you think. If Liverpool were to finish this season not winning a trophy, but finishing 4th, is that enough to save his job? Personally, I don't think it is. Personally, I think that the only thing that saves his job this season is finishing 4th and winning the Champions League. I don't even think finishing 4th and winning the FA Cup is enough to save his job. I think he has to win the Champions League if he's going to save his job. Genuinely do think that, because of the fact that we've spent nearly £500 million. The expectation at the start of the season, and this is not, and I'm going to say this again and again and again and again, because I keep hearing it, I keep reading it, I keep seeing it. You know, this is not a transitional season. Let's get this straight. This is not and never was meant to be a transitional season, because at the start of the season, Richard Hughes, Arne Slot all talked about building a team, building a squad to dominate in all 4 levels of competition. So for me, bullshit. It's a transition season. Bullshit. You know, genuinely is. He also talked about finding the ideal balance in terms of attack and defence. He says, I think in the last 11 games we've hardly conceded chances. Yes, we have, I agree, look more solid, but that's because we are very slow on the ball. We are taking more time over build-ups. We are, where a team has 4 attackers, we are dropping 5 to defend. Where a team has 3 attackers, we are dropping 4 to defend. We are constantly ensuring in defensive actions we have an overload of players. We are being very conservative in the way that we are playing. So, you know, yes, we are conceding less chances. But in the period before that, when we lost a lot of games, we created a lot of chances, but we conceded more chances than we are conceding recently. True, the ship has been stabilised to some degree, but the football is shit. Those were more open games where maybe people look back at it now. Please give us those open games again. But the results weren't as we wanted them to be. So we have to find a balance. And we will, because I can see the players growing and get more and more belief again. They are getting fitter. As I've mentioned many times, we are just waiting for a moment, because we are doing well, like you said, where we can kickstart our season even more than we've done in the recent 11 games. I think everyone is aligned about the challenges we are facing. That's not to say we are going to act, but everyone is aligned on facing what is coming up. Now, look, I believe that, you know, he honestly believes that he is doing the right thing, that he is stabilising the situation, that he is making us harder to beat, that he is making the team tougher to get through, but he's taking away from the attacking options. He's taking away from actually going out there and beating teams and playing teams properly. He is making this team very predictable to play against, easy to play against. Now, most clubs know, and I think you'll see it from Burnley at Anfield this weekend, that if you drop 11 players behind the, or 10 players behind the ball, 11 if you include the goalkeeper, and make it tough for Liverpool to play to create chances, because there is a low block in place, because we are slow in our possession, slow in our build-up, slow in the work we do, you are going to basically get a situation where we will be easy to play against for every team that we come up against. We are, a team that play way too slowly. If you are going to overcome a low block, if you are going to create enough chances to win in these games, you need to play more quickly. You need to pass the ball quicker. You need to create overloads. You need to use the width. You need to move the ball with a bit more just a little bit quicker. Something that Liverpool are massively not doing at the moment. And look, for me, it's huge. It's a big drop off this season. It really is. And Slot has presided over this drop off. He has caused this drop off with the way he is now playing. And I understand why he did it initially. But you've got to move away from that, Arne. You've got to move to a more progressive style, a more attacking style of football. And people can talk about the injuries to the attackers. And yes, we do have, obviously, Salah at AFCON. He's back for the 24th. We have the injury to Isak. We have the lack of players in those attacking positions because he won't, for whatever reason, use Chiesa. He won't use Rio and Gamoa, even though when Rio has come on, Rio has actually done more in the time that he's been on than most of the attackers. Even Arne's beloved Cody, he's done more than him. I mean, Cody Gakpo in the last couple of games has been absolute fucking shite, to be perfectly honest with you. So, I do feel that Arne does need to now stop this slow build-up. He needs to stop slot ball, stop the horseshoe ball. Now, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst has come in as the new assistant. And look, I spoke this morning on this morning's video about them missing out on Johnny Heitinga, who's come back to the Premier League and is now with Spurs. I spoke about that, and I spoke about the fact that I do feel we should have gone after Heitinga and tried to bring Johnny Heitinga back to Liverpool. But, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, when he was at Rangers, played slow horseshoe football. And that was slow build-up. Ball goes forward. You can't find a way to break through. You turn round. You pass back. You come back the way, creating the horseshoe to try and come down the other side. That doesn't work. So you come back the way. And it's all slow and laborious. And it doesn't work. And I think you're seeing some of that Van Bronckhorst-esque football bleeding through to what we're doing this season. Whereas last season we pressed higher, we were more aggressive in the press, we played faster. A stat that I've trotted out a number of times now, about the whole situation around the defensive actions, 11.3 passes per defensive action against 8 last season. More passing of the ball in the defensive third rather than moving it more quickly up the field, which we did last season. Now, I know we've lost the likes of Luis Diaz and Darwin Nunez, who were much better for that quick, and Diogo Jota for that quick counter-attacking football. And I get that plays a part. But, there is a real worry that lack of direct attacking football from Liverpool is causing us to really drop back and be in a huge battle to get this 4th place. And look, I think, we probably will get 4th place, only because of the fact that the other teams around us are so shit. And I think we will bore our way to enough positive results to get that 4th place. But it's sad that we seem to be only talking about 4th place, and we seem to only be talking about that has been an aspiration for this season, when we should be doing so much more than just aiming for 4th place. It's a worry, it's a concern. And I think Arne Slot has a lot to answer for in terms of how we are looking this season because of that. He talked about facing Burnley as well. Look, Burnley are not in a great position at the moment. And look, if you ask me to put my money where my mouth is, I'm going to tell you that Burnley, Wolves, and I think West Ham will all go down this season. I think that will be the 3 that go. They are the poorest 3 teams in the league at this point in time. That's honestly what I feel. That is how the league will end. If you look at Burnley at the moment, in the league table, they sit 2nd off bottom. They've drawn 3 of their last 5. They've lost 2 of their last 5. They've only won 3 games this season. They've lost 14, they've drawn 4, they've got a minus 19 goal difference. They still are a tough team to play against. As we saw when we played them at Turf Moor, where it came down to that late Mo Salah penalty to win the game. A penalty we probably did deserve at the end of the day. But look, I think it was a tough out. They were a tough out. Now, this is what Arne had to say about playing Burnley. Guys, please obviously remember, this is your new LFC Journal channel. Please obviously smash a sub on the channel. Please smash a like on the video. It'd be great to get some more comments in as well. Get some more people commenting on the podcast. The more people we get, the better it is. I've always said that one of the things I like to do as a podcaster is give you the opportunity to speak, give you the opportunity to participate in the conversation. Very much like Craig does at Anfield Agenda. I'm a massive fan of Craig's. So obviously, please bring in some comments. This is what he had to say on facing Burnley. He said, I have to think back to the game we played there. I think it was the 95th minute when we at last got the penalty we deserved for a handball. But you never know, because 3 weeks later we had another referee, or maybe, and he just waffles on about penalties being given. So whatever, bollocks, rubbish. That was a game where we had multiple chances before we at last scored a penalty, but they made it really hard that day, and they have made it really hard for a lot of other teams since then. So we will have to be ready. We're looking forward to it. Another home game, another game where we want to show what we can do better, making from all the ball possession more chances. We've worked again this week, in the last weeks, a lot on that, and I'm hoping and waiting for the moment when things really click and people will say, now, from all this ball possession, this was nice to watch. There's a lot of chances combined to that, but the moment we generate more chances again, we probably have to be more open as well. A certain period of this season has also shown that we didn't concede quite a lot of counterattacks, so we have to find the ideal balance between creating more but still hardly conceding anything. There appears to be a real kind of crisis in Arne's mind over how to play, and I think his conservative brain is taking over from his attacking brain to some degree, and it's that fear and anxiety about conceding chances that is really causing us not to perhaps be the attacking team that we should be, to be the attacking team that we could be, even, because I think he is very much in this dilemma that he doesn't want to go back to a situation where we are suddenly letting in a lot of goals again. That appears to be what I'm kind of taking from this statement and this comment that he's made. And I think as well, a lot of fans are sitting there this morning and going to sit there on Saturday as well and want to see us, create chances, be more exciting, be more free-flowing, be more attacking. I think that is an absolute must for a Liverpool team. I think Arne needs to, find that balance, but at the same time, perhaps go back to last season, Arne. We were solid defensively, but still very attacking, Arne. So, we do need to have a more attacking approach, Arne. We do need to go for them a lot more. And what you've got to remember, Arne, is a lot of these lower teams, if you are more conservative, you are playing right into their hands. And I think that's the danger we've got, and that's what Arne is doing to some degree. He's being way too conservative with these lesser teams. He needs to be more attacking, more aggressive. Look at a quick comparison between Liverpool and Burnley, and there's actually some worrying stats in this comparison. Both teams have played 21 games. We've scored 32 goals to their 22, so obviously we are obviously better attacking wise. We've had 84 shots on target, they've had 63. This is the worrying stat though. Our shooting accuracy is at 40.4%. Theirs is at 50.4%. So they may have had less shots, but they've been more accurate with their shooting. We are less accurate with our shooting. We are under 50% in shooting accuracy. That is a little bit of a worry for me. That is a little bit of a concern going forward, that we are so far off it in terms of shooting accuracy. Conversion rate, chance conversion rate, we're at 15.4%. They're at 17.6%. So again, it doesn't look too great on that one. In terms of goals conceded, we've conceded 28 this season, which is a hell of a lot more than last season. They have conceded 41. Clean sheets, we've had 7, they've had 3. Shots faced, we've faced 78, they've faced 121. We've won 177 tackles this season, they've won 211. Tackle success rate, our tackle success rate is higher. We've won more duels, and our duel success rate is higher as well. Our passing accuracy is higher than theirs as well, 86.3% to their 77.9. Our successful crosses is better than theirs, 49 to 35. Our crossing accuracy though is not as good as theirs, which is another worry. And I think this again goes back to our lack of wingers in this squad. You look at the squad, we don't have a lot of out-and-out wingers. We rely on the fullbacks to get forward and put the ball in the box. Cody Gakpo is not a winger. I'm not quite sure what Cody Gakpo is. We rely on Kirkes, we rely on Robertson, we rely on Bradley, we rely on Frimpong. But their crossing accuracy is 19.3. Ours is 15.7. So there is some very worrying stats within those figures where Burnley are perhaps doing better than we are, and that's a concern. And that's a concern. And it will be a tough game this weekend. Do not get me wrong. It will be an exceptionally tough game this weekend. I do think Liverpool will have just a little bit too much for Burnley. Don't get me wrong. And Liverpool will win the game. But I think it will be a lot closer than perhaps we would like. and fans at Anfield will like on Saturday. I really genuinely do. I think, you're probably looking at 2-0, 1-0, something like that, or possibly 2-1, 3-1. I don't think it's going to be a game that is easy, where we're going to score a lot of goals, which we should be doing against a team like Burnley. We should be going out there at Anfield, at home, and putting a 19th place team to the sword and beating them properly. But I don't think that will happen. One, because of the conservative style of the team, which will stop us from creating those chances. And secondly, because I think Burnley will do all they can to break up and spoil the game as much as possible, and we won't have the answers to overcome that. So I do think there is an element of that within it. So, it is a slight worry for me on that aspect. Right, guys, let's have a little look, shall we? People talk about, January transfer window. We need a centre-back. We need a winger. And I think, the fact that we didn't obviously get Antoine Semenyo is massive. I think the fact that we didn't obviously bring in, at the moment we're not bringing in a centre-back, I think is huge. I think it's a big problem for Liverpool. And I think it could cost us in the competitions that we are still in at this present moment in time. Right, let's see if this works. Right, I'm going to bring up, this is Transfer Market. I'm hoping this works. Let's see if it works. It's probably not going to work now, is it? No, it's not going to work. Oh, brilliant. Oh, wonderful. Anyway, look at Transfer Market. We're going to look at the different areas of the squad and look at the relative strengths of those areas. This is a squad that we've spent a lot of money on. Market values of the different areas. This is what Transfer Market say. So we've got a goalkeeping department worth €48 million, a defensive department worth €228.5 million, a midfield worth €428 million, and an attack worth €338 million, giving us an overall squad value of €1.04 billion. Which is a fuckload of money. So let's have a little look through, shall we, at the squad depth and what we've got in terms of that squad depth. So the goalkeeping department, we've got Pesci, Woodman, Alisson and Mamoulaşvili. I think, speaking personally there, we need to keep Alisson fit. Alisson is an outstanding goalkeeper. He is the best goalkeeper in the world, and I think at times, this season he's kept the score down, or he's kept us in games, or he's helped us to get points that we perhaps wouldn't have got had he not been there. I've got to say, in terms of Giorgio Mamoulaşvili, jury is firmly out on Giorgio Mamoulaşvili. Really, genuinely is firmly out on Giorgio Mamoulaşvili. Sorry, I'm just going to move I need my power cable. Giorgio Mamoulaşvili, the jury is out for me on him. I personally believe that Giorgio Mamoulaşvili is a huge downgrade on Kamin Kelleher. I don't think he's as good as Kelleher at all. And I certainly hope that Liverpool do not believe that he is the successor to Alisson. I think he is a solid goalkeeper, and I think he's a good backup goalkeeper, but I do not believe for 1 minute that he is the person to be Alisson's replacement. I honestly believe, look, I would have loved to have kept Kamin Kelleher. I think Kelleher for me is was the best backup last season. He is, I'm not saying he's world class. I'm not saying he's the best keeper in the world. I'm not saying he's on Alisson's level by any stretch of the imagination. But for me, losing Kamin Kelleher is huge. I think Kelleher is an exceptionally good goalkeeper. And like I said, Mamoulaşvili for me is a huge downgrade on Kelleher. So I think in terms of goalkeeping, the importance is to keep Alisson fit till the end of the season. I think with Mamoulaşvili, he can play in cup games, certainly, and he has enough in terms of being a cup goalkeeper to get us through. But other than that, I think long term, we do need someone to come in and replace him. Replace Alisson. Alisson's contract's up in 2027. I don't see Mamoulaşvili as the future Liverpool number one. Not instead of Alisson. I think we need to go and get someone better. In terms of the defensive area, we have Konate, Leone, who's injured, Van Dijk, Gomez, who is unreliable, Reece Williams, who is not apparently out on loan, Kirkez, Robertson, Frimpong, and the injured Connor Bradley. So realistically, at this moment in time, we have Konate, Van Dijk, Gomez, Kirkez, Robertson, Frimpong. That's it. defensively. To me, we are short. I think right back wise, you can put Frimpong and Gomez. That's enough. That's okay to get us through the season. You know, Curtis Jones can play there. Dom Szoboszlai can play there. Although I don't want to see Dom at right back because I think it takes away from our midfield. Centre back wise, you know, we are really, really struggling centre back wise. Van Dijk and Konate, but behind Van Dijk and Konate, there is literally nothing. There is literally nothing, and that is a huge, huge concern. So I do think in the centre back room we are really lacking talent and lacking in depth there. And I think we do desperately need to add to that in this transfer window. I don't feel there's enough there to get us through to the end of the season. You know, I think we're going to need to rotate and rest Konate and Van Dijk. Well, who do you rotate and rest them for? Gomez? He's always injured. I don't want to see Endo there. I don't want to see Grav there. I don't want to see Robertson there. So to me, going out and getting a centre half is an absolute must, a huge, huge must for Liverpool Football Club. Now, you look at the midfield area, we've got Gravenberch, Bajetic is injured again, Endo is back, McAllister, Jones, Nioni, Wirtz, Szoboszlai. I think there's enough in midfield at this moment in time. In the actual centre of midfield, for that midfield 3 or midfield 2+1 or however we're going to line up, I think we have enough. You know, you've got Grav there, Endo there, McAllister, Jones. Jones has been great this season. I'd love to see Nioni get more of an involvement going forward. I hope that Arne starts to use Trey Nioni a whole lot more. I think he's a very talented young lad, and I think we need to see more of Trey Nioni. So I think midfield-wise, there is enough. There is enough there, going forward. In the attacking area, we've got Gakpo, Salah, Chiesa, Isak, who is out, I think, pretty much for the season, and Hugo Ekitike. You know, look, realistically, you look at that and there isn't 6. There's 5 because Isak's injured. Then it goes down to 3 because the manager won't use Chiesa. He won't use Rio and Gamoa for whatever reason. Now, I get pretty tired of this bullshit that's tried out that we don't want to sign a left winger because we don't want to, harm Rio's path to the first team. Well, the only person, as far as I'm concerned, who is harming Rio's path to the first team is the manager. To me, Rio and Gamoa should be getting more game time. I'm not saying start him, certainly not, but he should be coming on more often than he is and playing more of a part. Salah obviously is back for the 24th of January, but what Mohamed Salah do we get back? Do we get back a Mo Salah who can play at a good level, who can create chances, score goals, or do we get back the Mo Salah we've had for most of the season, who's been pretty poor, to be perfectly honest with you? So which Salah are we getting back? That's the big question. Cody Gakpo has been dire this season. Really, really poor this season. So he's been a one-trick pony this season. You know, he can do one thing, which is cutting on his right foot, which everyone knows that he's going to do. So everyone shows him outside, and then he becomes ineffective. He won't link up with Kirkez for whatever reason. So he's been really ineffective this season. Hugo Ekitike has been fabulous this season. Really, really good. You know, Hugo Ekitike, for me, is probably the best striker in the Premier League right now. And Hugo has been absolutely brilliant this season. In terms of, Hugo's figures this season for Liverpool, in the league, he's made 18 appearances, scored 8 goals, 2 assists, 10 goal contributions in 18, played in 62% of our starting 11, 60% of our minutes, and had a 34% goal participation rate. So it was pretty much, converted to over a third of our goals. In the FA Cup, 1 appearance, 1 goal, 1 assist, so 2 goal contributions in 1 game. 50% goal participation rate. In the Champions League, 6 appearances, 1 goal. In the Carabao Cup, 1 appearance, 1 goal as well. So you look at his overall contribution this season by Hugo Ekitike and what he's brought to the club since he joined from Eintracht Frankfurt. 12 goals, 3 assists in 27 games, 15 goal contributions in 27 games. He has been the best player. And let's remember, he hasn't started all of those games. He has missed games of injury. So to me, he's been the best player, but we are lacking anybody to back him up. So you look at that squad, and honestly, like I've said a number of times, you compare that squad with Arsenal's squad, with Manchester City's squad, with Villa's squad, and you really do think that we could be in a position where we have not got enough attacking talent. We have not got enough up there to sustain a sustained challenge in the FA Cup and in the Champions League. So I don't understand why in January we are not pursuing players. Now, I get the argument that Liverpool are a club that are a long-term planning club. They're a club that always look to have targets, and they have their targets, and they work on those targets, and they wait for those targets to become available, and then they sign them. But that, to me, is not responsive enough to needs of the squad, needs of the situation. And we hear all this, well, Liverpool won't be panic buying, Liverpool won't be responding to this need, that need, short-term fixes. Well, sometimes, unfortunately, Liverpool, you need to do that to challenge on all fronts, to challenge in the competitions you're in. And to me, it's a frustration that they're not doing that at the moment. And look, it's the 16th of January today. I think, I personally believe that the chances of us signing anyone this window are 0 to nothing. So the squad for me is not thick enough and strong enough to go through the rest of the season and compete for the competitions we're in and still compete in the league to finish fourth. And it's a concern. I said before the January transfer window, and I'll say it again now, we need a centre-back, we need a winger. It's a minimum, a wide forward to come in who can play as an attacker and as a winger. Semenyo would have been perfect, but obviously we've missed out on him now. We could be missing out on Gay as well. To me, there's a lot of mismanagement going on, and that's not on Arne Slot. That's on Michael Edwards. That's on Richard Hughes. So, there's a lot of things that do need to be addressed for me to thicken this squad enough to be able to compete for the rest of this transfer window. Guys, I'd love to know your thoughts on that one. Let me know in the comments. Well, guys, that's it for this morning. Thank you for watching the LFC Journal podcast. As always, guys, if you've enjoyed the content, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you on the next one.